Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franson here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to SpotOn.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done-For-You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. Dr. Jeff Danielson is a passionate and creative serial entrepreneur of 19 LLCs. His life mission is to pay it forward through the hospitality industry into the future of chiropractic through his coaching and training company, Big Fish Enterprises. Dr. Jeff is a co-owner of Trellis Hospitality, a group of restaurants in the Twin Cities, which includes Tamarack Tap Room, Woolley's, Barley and Vine, and Jordan Supper Club. He was also invited to be an owner of Jester Concepts restaurants, which include PS Steak and the Butcher and The Boar, which is set to reopen in its new location this fall. Hey, Dr. Jeff, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. Hey, tell me about your life's mission to pay it forward.
Oh, my goodness. I would be lying if I said I started my life to pay it forward. I think I was just like every other selfish little kid, that wanted to build a career and a life for myself. But as I became an entrepreneur, I'm a chiropractor at heart, became an entrepreneur and wanted to help people. I learned very quickly in leading people that the only way you can lead people is to love people. And it became clear to me that if I wanted to be successful in business, one of the things that I needed to do was to help others become successful in business. And I have carried that theme throughout the many businesses that I run and have organized over the years. And it served me very well in chiropractic as a doctor. And it has served me very well. Interestingly enough, you would not think that there are many similarities between the chiropractic and healthcare world and the restaurant and hospitality industry, but there are a lot of similarities. And I've been able to carry that theme into the hospitality industry, and I really love doing it.
Was there kind of a situation or a story that you were in that you realized this was a philosophy that would benefit you and benefit everybody else that was associated with you?
Yeah, well, kind of what happened is this. There were a few people that I was familiar with, friends of mine that were restaurateurs, and they had a concept that they wanted to create, and it's now found in the restaurant Tamarack Tap Room in Woodbury, Minnesota. And they wanted to bring other individuals on board for owning the restaurant that had different skill sets. The skill set that they saw in me was my ability to work with people and to organize people and to love people. And the pay it forward concept, they were intrigued by that. And they were like, you need to be on our board. And so I was like, great, this sounds like an adventure. And as a lot of your listeners probably know, don't get into the restaurant industry unless you're willing to lose your money. And so I knew that I had a certain amount of money that I was willing to lose in order to learn something. And that was really my goal, was I wanted to learn something about something new. I'd been a chiropractor for almost 20 years before I owned my first restaurant. And so I wanted to learn something new, came on with this team and found that I could apply a lot of my people skills in the hospitality industry. And in fact, the key piece that we do in our clinics is we help young people advance in the industry by paying it forward to them, to teach them, to mentor them, to love them, to get them excited about building a career in the restaurant industry. And we now have people that have moved all the way from like a busing position all the way up to actually being a part owner in a restaurant. And there's a lot of steps in between there, believe me. But it's been really cool to see people have the light bulb go on above their head when they realize that they can be an entrepreneur, that they can run a business, that they can build a life for themselves through a restaurant concept. And that really what it's been all about too, is creating concepts that are experiences. And that's what we do with our restaurants.
You talked about there being a lot of similarities between running a chiropractic clinic and a restaurant. What are some of those?
Well, the thread that goes between everything is people.
Sure. So I go to a chiropractor and I can tell you have to be a great people person. You have to enjoy talking to people and really serving people. Does that carry over? How does that carry over when you're the owner of a restaurant?
Well, it's not so much the owner because I'm not in the restaurants, running food out and expoing and doing all those things. But if you are, let's just say as a server, as a restaurant server, you're very similar to a chiropractor because you are there to give people a great experience. You are there to deliver a service, whether it's an adjustment and better health, or it's an experience that they can enjoy their family or their friends and have dinner with them. And that requires education. So, Chad, if I had your neck in my hands and you had never been adjusted before, boy, I better explain to you what an adjustment is and what it's going to feel like and what it's going to do for you and how it's going to benefit you. There's a lot of education behind that. And when you're a server standing there at a table and people are looking through the menus, you are an educator. You are a teacher. And you may have somebody sitting there like my son who just wants the greasiest, cheesiest burger possible, the greatest oozing experience where the burger's dripping down his arm. That's my son, okay? But on the other side of the table, you may have somebody that needs to be gluten-free, maybe has a peanut allergy, needs to know, also at the same table, you might have somebody that wants a wine and they want a wine that's going to pair well with their pork chop. So you better be able to educate all three of those people to deliver the experience that they're expecting. And that's what's cool about people and the service industry is that we are teachers. We are there to serve them in that way.
So tell me a little bit about Trellis Hospitality and how you got involved.
Well, Trellis, so it all kind of started with this first restaurant, Tamarack Tap Room. And as we became successful with that concept, two of the other, so that group started as 13 owners. It's now down to 10, but it started with 13 owners. Two of the other owners are very accomplished entrepreneurs in the restaurant industry. And they tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, we've got some ideas that we want to roll out to other restaurants. And so the three of us then formed a restaurant management company called Trellis Hospitality. That group, then we help restaurateurs manage their restaurants. We bring in accounting intelligence. We bring in marketing intelligence and operations intelligence. And so when we can bring in those three things into a restaurant where maybe somebody's really just passionate about food and wants to be successful, but doesn't necessarily know the intimate details of those three pieces, the accounting, the operations, and also the food issue and the people issue. When we can come in and the marketing, when we can come in and address all of those things, then we can really help a restaurateur become successful. Because as you know, so many restaurants fail. So many. And honestly, and that's why I got in. I'm also a coach in the chiropractic industry. I coach chiropractors around the country, and I do that because I don't want chiropractors to fail. And the same thing is true of restaurants. I don't want restaurants to fail either. And there's ways that we can prevent that.
So you mentioned Tamarack Tap Room. Can you tell me about it? Maybe what a customer can expect when going there?
Oh yeah, Tamarack Tap Room it's just cool. It's what I like to tell people is if you like beer, you are going to love Tamarack Tap Room. We've got 72 beers on tap. and it is a craft experience. Kind of the funny story that I have about the restaurant is that when we started it, we were not going to have a regular beer like Budweiser, Miller, or Coors on our list. It was going to be all craft beer, and that's how we started. And we had so many people ask us, well, do you just have a Coors Light? Because, even if you have a group of 6 people, there's always going to be one in the crowd of 6 that is going to want their Coors Light or their Miller Lite. And so we were like, doggone it. And so we have 2 taps out of 72. And we have 2, regular beers, whether it be Budweiser or Coors Light, because there are people that's what they want. And the funny story here is that in our bathroom, in the men's bathroom, we have 2 urinals. And those urinals are kegs.
Oh, nice.
So you can actually go in the bathroom and pee into a keg. And when we first opened, they were Budweiser kegs. Nothing against Budweiser, okay? I'm just saying it's not craft beer, right? So they were Budweiser kegs. And then when we started carrying Budweiser in our list of taps, we had to take the kegs out and put in just blank kegs because we didn't want to offend Budweiser by peeing into the Budweiser kegs. But what's awesome, and if you can get people to do this, it's awesome. The guys will go in there, and if they've never peed into a keg before, they will actually take a picture on their phone, and they'll bring it back to their table. And they'll show their buddies at the table, look what I just peed into. And so it's creating an experience that's fun. It's slightly upscale, meaning our chef is fantastic. Our chef is super creative. We've had bone marrow on the menu. We have amazing flatbreads and different things. So it's not just a greasy spoon. It's not that, but it's all about craft burgers, craft beer, and bourbon. And that's the experience that you get.
Do you mind if we run through the rest of the restaurants associated with Trellis? Can you tell me about Woolley's?
Sure. Yeah. Woolley's Kitchen and Bar is a completely remodeled restaurant inside of the Embassy Suites in Bloomington, right by the airport. It's been a very successful restaurant there for years and years. We do weddings and a lot of corporate events there at the Embassy Suites. And we've got a great little restaurant and bar inside of the hotel. So it's a completely different animal. For those that are listening, it's a whole different deal. We get busy when there's a snowstorm because we have all kinds of people that have to stay overnight because their flights got canceled. And we're about 6 blocks from the Minneapolis airport. And so, and plus we have tons of business meetings and weddings and things like that, plus room service. And so it's not the same as our other standalone restaurants. But the things that are the same: service, people, opportunity for young people to advance, opportunity to mentor young people, and just loving on customers and being there and educating for customers. There our menu is a little bit classier, because it's a hotel restaurant. So it's a little classier level of service, and whatnot. So it's a lot of fun, but that's kind of the experience there.
What about Barley and Vine?
Barley and Vine is Tamarack Tap Room, except a little bit fancier. It's more of a date night. So the menu's a little bit nicer. We don't have as many TVs. We've got a gorgeous patio. It is a great place to meet for the ladies to meet, to have a glass of wine together and a great cheese board. We were just featured in the Star and Tribune, which is the main newspaper in the Twin Cities, as the best place for a cheese board in town in the Twin Cities. And so we got written up, and that was kind of a neat thing, because that's what we want. Again, it's an experience. Now in the summer, it's not just nice wines on the patio, but it's slushies. And I'm telling you right now, if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, restaurateur, if you don't have a slushie, and you can get the machines, the slushie machines that make these, the overhead on the margins are amazing on the slushies, because they're wine slushies. They're alcoholic wine slushies. and they go down easy, they go down smooth, and people keep drinking them. And the price point is excellent. We get really good margins on those.
Sounds great. The last one with Trellis that I know of is Jordan Supper Club.
Yeah, so Jordan Supper Club is that's a smaller town. Jordan is a town outside of the Twin Cities, about 25, 30 minutes outside of the metro. It's a growing community, but it's probably 5,000 or 6,000 people. We're off of a main interstate, but it's very, very similar to the tap room, the Tamarack Tap Room. Same kind of environment. Not as many taps there, but we have two restaurants kind of under one roof there. We have the Jordan Tap Room and we have the Jordan Supper Club. The owner is Dick Ames and his wife Lolly. And Dick passed away a few years ago. But Trellis runs the restaurant for the family. And the Ames family has been a very, very important family for the Jordan community, actually for all of the Twin Cities. He was a huge benefactor. He was a very successful entrepreneur in the construction company in the construction area. In fact, he built the Denver airport. So he laid the foundation for that entire airport, which was a huge thing. But so it is a community-based experience there. It's fancier than most of the other restaurants in town that are just kind of diners or greasy spoons. So it's a little bit of an upgrade from that, craft beer, craft burgers, and that kind of thing.
Okay. Hey, how do you, before we talk about the Jester restaurants, how do you implement that culture of pay it forward culture in your restaurants?
Well, that's a good point. Number one is it always starts with you, right? It starts with how do I make sure that the people around me that are working with me know that I'm not here for myself. Okay. And this is just life experience and life, mentorship as well. If you want to get more out of life, then serve people, love the people around you, do something for other people. Number one, it makes you feel good. I mean, there's nothing better than giving a great referral to a friend or helping somebody with something. Nothing feels better than that. And if you do that, guess what happens? What comes around goes around. People want to do something for you, and people want to help you. And so you can't just think it. You can't just have that in your heart. You actually have to say it. And, when you have a busser that helps you, if you're a server and you've got a busser that helped you and just saved you out of a jam, you pull that busser aside and say, you know what, you saved my butt today. I am so grateful. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to pay it forward to you. And then you do. And that's the other thing. You not just say it, but then take action and pay it forward. Maybe you buy them lunch. You do something. Any little acknowledgement is what fosters that culture. And when you can have that culture, man, it's unstoppable. Yeah, but it starts from leadership down, because leadership is about servanthood. Okay. And a lot of people get into leadership thinking that they're going to be the boss. And that's why they want to be the leader, because they want to be in charge. They're a micromanager and they want to be the boss and they want to tell people what to do. Guess what, everybody? Newsflash. You are the servant. You are there to serve the people around you as a leader. One of my partners, his name is Bob Kinsella, and I mention his name because today he underwent heart surgery, open heart surgery. They actually took his heart out of his body, took it into another operating room, replaced a valve, and then brought it back into the original operating room and put it back into his body. That happened to my partner today.
Wow.
And I mean that, and this is a guy who, he could buy me probably 3 times over. The guy is very, very wealthy, but you would never know. Why? Because in these restaurants, when he's running around and helping the restaurants, he's bussing tables. And he cracks jokes about being the oldest busser, and nobody knows that he's the owner.
Wow.
And it's just, the guy is so humble and so talented and so confident. So my prayers have been out for him today.
Sure.
He's going through his surgery and whatnot, but surrounding yourself with people like that are willing to humble themselves and be servants. That's where the magic is at.
Yeah. Sounds great. So you've also become an owner with Jester Restaurants. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So my friend Bob, I've just mentioned, and Ben, because Bob is so plugged in with the different restaurants in the restaurant community, he's been a restaurateur for 30 years. I have not, and so he's been very connected. Our group has kind of been seen as, hey, this group has something going on. They've got this thing figured out. And so a few of the other groups, we've made some friends. And the Jester group has a great leader. His name is Brent Fredericks. Brent is just a good, humble, and extremely confident young man, and very successful in his own right. And he said, hey, why don't you guys, I'm going to offer an opportunity to you guys to come play in our sandbox. And their sandbox is mostly downtown Minneapolis restaurants. And so Bob and I said, great, why not? And so we joined them. So I'm so grateful to Brent and the Jester group, because they opened, I mean, how many restaurateurs do that? I mean, you're not competition. Come on in, join us. And I know you can learn something from us. And I think we can learn something from you guys. And so we have the hotel restaurant. We've got the standalone restaurants, including even a slightly out of town restaurant. And then he's the downtown Minneapolis guy. I mean, he's got it figured out. And so we joined him in a restaurant, PS Steak, which has been absolutely fantastic. It is a high level experience. It's not one that I can afford to go to, every week. It's high end, but it is the best steak in town. The Denver cut is unbelievable, and the whole experience is top notch, and people know it. And people are willing to pay for it because it's that memorable. So we came in with that, and then of course Brent is always looking for the next thing. And so Butcher and The Boar is a company that had some issues, very successful restaurant, but had some ownership issues. They closed down right when COVID happened, and he bought the rights to Butcher and The Boar. And so now he built another team to reopen Butcher and The Boar. And that's going to happen in October of 2022. And we can't wait for that. It is absolutely going to be a stunning restaurant in the North Loop.
Hey, how did COVID affect the operations at your locations?
Oh, boy. How didn't it, right? I mean, it's, number one, in Minnesota, Minnesota was a very difficult place to run a business during COVID. Unlike, states like Florida, which, pretty much stayed open for a lot of it, Minnesota was really shut down. We were shut down for about 6 to 8 weeks twice in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
It was brutal. We did the appropriate things that we needed to do for, getting PPP money, and we kept, people on staff. We paid people to not work. And I think a lot of the restaurateurs out there did that too. We paid a full staff. We have 92 people on staff at Tamarack Tap Room. We paid them to not work.
Wow.
So it was brutal, but the focus was not on being profitable during that time. The focus was on survival. And that's exactly what we did. We survived and we thrived. Now, the one restaurant that continues to battle is the one that's in the hotel. And that was probably our flagship. That was the most successful restaurant we had, because we were 6 blocks in right dab in the middle, 6 blocks from the Minneapolis airport, and 6 blocks the other direction was the Mall of America. We were right in between the two. The hotel was 98% full constantly. It didn't matter. Because location was perfect, right? Mm-hmm. And during COVID, nobody's traveling. The airports were empty. Nobody's going to the mall. A lot of shops were closed. Nobody's doing conferences, so businesses were canceling conferences, and nobody could have weddings indoors. And so all of the business, in fact, there was one day, I know the manager of the hotel there, the Embassy Suites, there was one day when there were only 2 rooms that were rented.
Oh, wow.
2 rooms out of 12 stories tall. 2 rooms. They went down to only 2 employees. So the same employee that was checking you in at the front desk was the same employee that was making your bed that night. And that's how bad it got in the hotel industry. And so we've struggled, but we survived, and we've been profitable over this past year. And we keep getting more and more bookings for business meetings and conferences and stuff like that. So we're coming out of it, but my goodness, quite an experience.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I have one more question for you, but first, just let me know how people can find out more about all of your restaurants.
Oh boy, Google's probably the best way to do that. Trellis Hospitality, Tamarack Tap Room, Barley and Vine, Woolley's Kitchen and Bar. If you want to reach out to me personally, please do. And it's a chiropractic email. So it's jeff@spinesavers.com. That's JEFF at SPINESAVERS.com.
Last question for you. If you were to go to let's say Tamarack Tap Room, what would be kind of your go-to or your item of choice, your meal of choice?
Oh boy. We're known for our burgers. So the craft burgers that we have, there's one that I had the last time I was there. It's a sriracha cheese curd burger. So it's got, on top of just a beautiful Wagyu patty, it's got cheese curds. And if you live in Minnesota or Wisconsin, you know exactly what a cheese curd is. It is deliciousness. And it's got sriracha on it, so it's hot, spicy. But probably my favorite thing is the dry rub chipotle wings. We've got great wings, and I'm normally not a dry rub person. I like the teriyaki sauce and stuff like that. But the dry rub wings are absolutely fantastic.
Wow, sounds good. I'm hungry now. Hey, Jeff, Dr. Jeff, it's been great to talk to you today. I really appreciate your time and your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. If I can do one more thing, I'll just to pay it forward to your listeners. I do a podcast as well. It's called Chiro Feast, CHIRO, and then the word feast, Chiro Feast. That's a podcast for entrepreneurs and people that just want to do life better. So it goes to chiropractors, but half my listeners are not chiropractors. So listen in and enjoy if you'd like to listen to more.
Okay, sounds good. People can just find that by Googling Chiro Feast.
Yeah, go to anywhere you get your podcasts and just type in Chiro Feast.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, Dr. Jeff, thank you so much.
Chad, it's been my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.